The crystal vase shattered against the wall inches from my head, sending shards of expensive glass raining down on the marble floor I'd just spent 2 hours polishing. Useless, my stepmother Victoria screeched, her perfectly manicured hands already reaching for another piece of decor to throw. You missed a spot. Again. I'm Katherine Chen, though in this house I was just girl, or maid, or whatever derogatory term Victoria felt like using that day. The fact that I legally owned the bank that held their mortgage was a secret I kept close to my heart, like a diamond hidden in the cleaning rags they forced me to use. I'm sorry, I murmured, already reaching for the broom. I'll clean it up right away. You'll clean it up and then do the entire floor again, she snapped, her designer heels clicking against the marble as she circled me like a predator. Maybe this time you'll do it properly. My father stood in the doorway, watching silently as his wife berated his only daughter. He'd been silent for the 10 years since he'd married Victoria, silent when she turned me into the family servant, silent as she spent his money and filled his house with her spite. And when you're done, Victoria continued, the windows need washing. All of them. Inside and out. It's raining, I pointed out quietly. Another crash. This time a crystal paperweight missed my shoulder by inches. Did I ask for your opinion? Clean the windows. Then the bathrooms. Then my closet needs reorganizing. I bent to pick up the larger pieces of crystal, carefully wrapping them in my cleaning cloth. 10 years of this treatment, starting when I was 15 and Victoria had married my father. 10 years of being their unpaid maid while building my own empire in secret. Your stepsister's coming home from Europe next week, Victoria announced, preening at the thought of her precious daughter. I want this house spotless for Madeline's return. Yes, Madeline. 2 years younger than me but treated like a princess while I scrubbed floors. Currently on her 3rd year of an endless European vacation, funded by my father's dwindling bank accounts. Yes, Victoria, I said softly, keeping my eyes down. Let her think I was broken. Let her believe she'd won. The foreclosure notice from my bank would be arriving tomorrow, and then we'd see who was really in control. And do something about your appearance, she sneered, gesturing at my simple clothes and unstyled hair. You look like a peasant. What will the neighbors think? The neighbors already thought plenty. They'd watched for years as Victoria transformed me from a grieving teenage girl who'd just lost her mother into an unpaid servant in my own home. They'd seen my father's weakness, his inability to stand up to his new wife. They'd whispered and pitted but done nothing. But I hadn't been doing nothing. Every day spent cleaning was also spent learning, observing, planning. Every night after my chores were done I studied. Finance, banking, business law. All through online courses paid for with money I'd saved from my mother's inheritance, the one thing Victoria couldn't touch. The neighbors won't see me, I assured her. I'll use the service entrance. She smiled, satisfied with my submission. At least you know your place. Unlike your mother. My hands tightened on the broom handle. She loved bringing up my mother, loved reminding me that she now ruled the house where my mother had once been mistress. My mother was a better woman than you'll ever be, I said before I could stop myself. The slap came fast, stinging across my cheek. How dare you? After everything we've done for you, giving you a roof over your head, food to eat. Victoria. My father finally spoke, his voice weak. Perhaps that's enough. Enough. She whirled on him. You've always been too soft on her, Daniel. This is why she's so disobedient. This is my house now and she'll learn respect or she'll learn to live on the streets. Your house. The thought almost made me laugh. The mortgage documents sitting in my bank's vault told a different story. You see, while Victoria was busy playing Queen of the Manor, I was building something she couldn't imagine. That inheritance from my mother? I'd turned it into a small fortune through careful investment. Then I'd bought a struggling local bank, transformed it into a digital banking powerhouse, and quietly acquired their mortgage along with dozens of others. First National Bank of Cambridge, now one of the fastest-growing financial institutions in the state, answered to me. Not that anyone knew. On paper, the bank was owned by a labyrinth of shell companies. The only name that appeared was my Chinese one, Li Wei Chin, which Victoria had sneered at and refused to use, insisting on calling me Katherine like it would somehow make me more acceptable. I'm sorry, I said again, falling back into my submissive role. It won't happen again. See that it doesn't. Victoria turned back to my father. Daniel, We need to discuss Madeline's welcome home party. I'm thinking of hiring that celebrity chef she likes. I tuned out their voices as I cleaned up the broken crystal, my mind already on tomorrow's foreclosure notice. Victoria had been spending money they didn't have for years, taking out second and third mortgages on the house, maxing out credit cards in my father's name. The house was underwater, their debts were mounting, and they had no idea that their day of reckoning was approaching. That evening, after finishing the floors again, and the windows in the rain, and Victoria's massive closet, color-coded exactly as she demanded, I retreated to my tiny room in the servants' wing. The space that had once been my beautiful bedroom was now Madeline's second closet. I opened my laptop, the one thing I'd purchased for myself that Victoria didn't know about, and logged into my bank's secure server. There it was, scheduled for tomorrow. Notice of foreclosure for 147 Maple Grove Drive. In 3 days, Victoria and my father would be called to an emergency meeting with the bank's owner. My phone buzzed, a text from my COO. Everything's set for Thursday's meeting. Are you sure you want to do this yourself? I looked around my small room at the cleaning supplies piled in the corner, at the single photo I had left of my mother. Yes, I replied. It's time they learn who really owns everything. Another buzz. Their credit cards are maxed out. No other assets found. They're completely dependent on your father's salary. Perfect. Victoria had spent them into ruin, all while treating me like a servant. The irony of her being dependent on me, the maid she despised, was almost poetic. A knock at my door interrupted my thoughts. Girl, I need my evening tea. I closed my laptop quickly. Coming, Victoria. In the kitchen, I prepared her tea exactly as she liked it. Earl Grey, 1 sugar, splash of milk, served in the antique china cups that had once belonged to my mother. Victoria had claimed them as her own, like she'd claimed everything else in the house. Here you are, I said, setting the tea tray beside her as she lounged on the expensive sofa she'd bought last month, on credit of course. Finally. What took you so long? She didn't wait for an answer, waving me away. The bathrooms need cleaning again. I noticed water spots on the mirrors. I turned to go, but she wasn't finished. Oh, and Katherine, tomorrow the garden club is coming for lunch. I expect everything to be perfect. No mistakes, no excuses. Clean the house from top to bottom tonight if you have to. I paused at the door. Tonight? It's already 9 o'clock. Did I stutter? She sipped her tea from my mother's cup. That's all you're good for anyway. Cleaning. It's not like you have anything else to do with your time. She only knew. But she would soon enough. Yes, Victoria. I'll start right away. I spent the night cleaning, but not because she ordered me to. I wanted the house spotless for tomorrow, wanted everything perfect when her world came crashing down. Let her have one last garden club lunch in the house she thought she owned. The foreclosure notice would arrive at 2 p.m., right after her friends left. I'd made sure of the timing. One final touch of karma for the woman who'd made my life hell for a decade. As I scrubbed and polished and organized, I thought about my mother. She'd raised me to be strong, to be independent, to never let anyone make me feel small. Education is power, she'd always said. Build something of your own, Katherine. Something no one can take away from you. So I had. While Victoria ordered me around and Madeline partied in Europe and my father watched in silence, I'd built an empire. First National Bank of Cambridge was just the beginning. I owned commercial properties across the state, had controlling interests in multiple businesses, all hidden behind my Chinese name that Victoria refused to acknowledge. At dawn I finally finished cleaning. The house sparkled, every surface gleaming, every room perfect. Victoria would find no fault today, no excuse to throw things or scream or slap. I made breakfast, eggs Benedict, fresh fruit, coffee, and served it to them in the formal dining room. Victoria barely glanced at me, too busy planning her lunch party. My father at least managed a quiet thank you when I refilled his coffee. The garden club arrives at 11, Victoria announced. I expect you to serve lunch precisely at noon. And Katherine. She finally looked at me, her eyes cold. Try not to embarrass me in front of my friends. Stay in the kitchen where you belong. I nodded meekly. Yes, Victoria. Will there be anything else? She waved me away, already turning back to her phone. Just do your job. It's all you're good for anyway. I retreated to the kitchen, hiding my smile. In just a few hours she'd learn exactly what I was good for. And it had nothing to do with cleaning houses. Victoria's Garden Club lunch went perfectly, of course. I served their watercress sandwiches and Earl Grey tea with professional precision, staying silent and invisible just as she demanded. Her friends barely noticed me, too busy gossiping about their perfect lives and perfect children. "Madeline's having such a wonderful time in Paris," Victoria bragged, showing off photos on her phone. "She's been invited to all the best parties. The son of a French count is quite taken with her." The women cooed appropriately, while I silently calculated how many overdraft fees Victoria had accumulated buying Madeline's designer wardrobe for those parties. At exactly 1:55 p.m. the last guest left. Victoria was still glowing from their admiration when the doorbell rang again at 2 p.m. sharp. "Girl, get the door," she called from the living room. I smiled. "I believe you'll want to answer this one yourself, Victoria." Something in my tone made her pause. She shot me a suspicious look before walking to the door herself, smoothing her expensive dress. The courier handed her an official-looking envelope from First National Bank of Cambridge. I watched her face as she opened it, saw the exact moment the blood drained from her cheeks. "Daniel," she screamed. "Daniel, come here now." My father hurried in from his study. "What is it? What's wrong?" "Foreclosure." Victoria thrust the papers at him. "How is this possible? There must be some mistake." I leaned against the doorframe watching them panic. "No mistake. You've defaulted on your mortgage payments. The bank is exercising its right to foreclose." They both turned to stare at me, startled by my calm tone. "How do you?" Victoria's eyes narrowed. "What did you do?" "I didn't do anything," I said truthfully. "You did this. The credit cards, the second mortgage, the endless shopping sprees. Did you think there would never be consequences?" My father was reading through the documents, his hands shaking. 3 days. They're giving us 3 days to meet with the bank's owner or they begin foreclosure proceedings." "Impossible." Victoria snatched the papers back. "I demand to speak to someone now." "Call them, Daniel." He reached for his phone, but I spoke first. "The owner only takes scheduled appointments. You'll have to wait for Thursday's meeting." Victoria whirled on me. "And how exactly do you know that? What have you done?" I smiled, remembering every slap, every insult, every broken vase thrown at my head. "You always said cleaning was all I was good for. Perhaps you should have paid more attention to what else I was doing with my time." "You." Understanding began to dawn in her eyes. "You've been spying for the bank." I laughed softly. "No, Victoria. I own the bank." The silence that followed was absolute. Even the expensive clock Victoria had imported from Switzerland seemed to stop ticking. "That's impossible," she finally whispered. "You're nothing. You're just a maid." "My Chinese name is Li Wei Chen," I said calmly. "Look it up. You'll find I own not just First National Bank of Cambridge, but several other financial institutions and businesses. Including this house very soon." My father collapsed into a chair. "Katherine, how? Remember that inheritance from Mom? The one Victoria said was too small to matter? I invested it. Built something of my own while you watched her turn me into a servant." Victoria's face had turned an interesting shade of red. "You're lying. You can't be." "The meeting on Thursday is with me," I continued. "Though I'd start packing before then. Once foreclosure begins, you'll have 30 days to vacate." "You can't do this." Victoria shrieked. "Daniel, do something." But my father just sat there, staring at me like he was seeing me for the first time. Maybe he was. "Actually, I can." I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app and showed them my personal account balance. Victoria actually staggered back a step. That's not possible. All those nights you made me clean until dawn? I was also studying, building, planning. While Madeline partied in Europe on borrowed money, I was creating an empire. "We'll fight this," Victoria declared, but her voice trembled. "We'll get lawyers." "With what money?" I asked quietly. "Your credit cards are maxed out. The house is underwater. You have no savings, no assets, nothing but debt. I've seen all your financial records. I own the bank, remember?" My father finally found his voice. "Katherine, please. We can work something out. We're family." "Family." I turned to him slowly. "Was it family when you let her turn me into a servant?" When you watched her abuse me for 10 years and said nothing. When you let her steal my mother's things, my childhood home, my dignity. He flinched at each question. The servants' wing has some open rooms, I said coldly. You're welcome to move there until the foreclosure is complete. Consider it karma. Victoria lunged at me, hand raised to slap me like she had so many times before. I caught her wrist easily. Try it, I said softly. Give me a reason to call the police. I'm not your maid anymore, Victoria. I'm your bank's owner. And you're about to be homeless. She jerked away from me, tears of rage streaking her perfect makeup. You planned this. All these years. No, you did this. Every time you called me worthless, every time you treated me like dirt, you were just motivating me to succeed. So really I should thank you. I walked to the front door, then turned back. Oh, and Victoria? Those antique teacups you love so much? The ones that belong to my mother? Pack them carefully. They'll be staying with me. The next few days were delicious chaos. Victoria called every lawyer in town, only to discover that I had ironclad documentation of their defaults and mismanaged finances. My father tried to access his retirement accounts, not realizing I'd already put a freeze on them due to suspected fraud. Victoria had been dipping into those too. Madeline called from Paris, hysterical about having to come home early. But Mummy, the Count's son was going to take me to Monaco. Your ticket has been cancelled, I heard Victoria tell her. All the cards are declined. Just get home however you can. Thursday arrived bright and clear. I had the meeting room at First National Bank prepared perfectly, for water spots removed from the mirrors, floors polished to a shine. Old habits die hard after all. They arrived looking shell-shocked. Victoria's designer outfit was wrinkled, my father's tie was crooked, and they had the haunted look of people who hadn't slept in days. Miss Chen will see you now, my assistant announced, using my Chinese name deliberately. I sat behind my desk, dressed in a suit that cost more than all of Victoria's credit card debt combined. Their faces when they walked in, when they saw the maid they'd abused for years sitting in the bank owner's chair, made every moment of servitude worth it. Please sit, I gestured to the chairs facing my desk. I believe we have some foreclosure terms to discuss. Katherine, my father started, but I held up a hand. Miss Chen, please. Or Li Wei if you prefer. Katherine was your maid. I'm your banker. Victoria was staring around my office. At the degrees on the wall, the industry awards, the view of the city from the top floor of my building. All this time, she whispered. All this time you were building something? Yes. Did you really think I spent all those nights just cleaning? Your cruelty gave me plenty of motivation to succeed.